I find it interesting going through and reading some of the old comments left on the Harbor Freight website. They are usually things like, tool works great, tool is junk, and you expect a little bit of it. My feeling is that companies should stay below 3% with issues dealing with a tool. In other words, to cover the stray failure on a particular tool because a component came through that wasn't up to tolerance. So anything under 3% I consider acceptable. I don't appreciate anything above 3%. If you go back to some of the older comments, you see that there's more dissatisfaction. But lately, if you look into the comments on Harbor Freight's website, you see that there's many more positive. Do you think it's time that if you've walked away from Harbor Freight that maybe you should come back and take another look at them? This deserves a good talk about. Hello anyone, I'm Scott Boehm. They call me the old farmer. I've been using Harbor Freight tools off and on since about, 1968 to 1970 when I first started. It was the first Harbor Freight store in the mid-Michigan area. And dollars were tight. And so therefore, I went to Harbor Freight to get some of the warrior tools or some of the lower end tools because that's all I could afford. And I remember when I bought the first warrior 1/4-inch drill, the batteries would fry because of the charger. If you left it on too long, the batteries would fry and then you don't have the battery anymore for it. I got one replacement off of that particular tool, and then it turned right around and did the same thing again. So I had to throw the tool away. But over the years, and I've been one that's been very strong complaining against them, that I do not tolerate being your quality control. If I buy a product, the product will work unless it's an exception to the rule, under 3% of the number of tools that they've turned out. Back in the earlier days, they were just starting out and they were picking up drop shipments wherever they could. And sometimes they stated tolerances that just weren't there with the tool. It'd be something like an Isetta car, the little 3-wheel Italian car that the front door is the only door and it's on the front of the car, and the back wheel was only a single back wheel. Well, it'd be like an Isetta trying to pull a semi-truck trailer. It just couldn't handle the load, and then it would destroy itself in the attempt to do so. Then along came Bauer. Bauer was a little wobbly in what they turned out, but I noticed something. They started to improve the quality. They finally got returns below 5%, which is moving in the right direction. Then overall it was down to about 3%, and that's starting to be where I want tools to be as a failure rate that had to be returned. And then came Hercules tools. Hercules tools were pretty good tools. But if you looked at it, in most instances, there was only like 5 cents worth of difference between the Bauer tools and the Hercules tools for hand power tools with the battery. And sometimes the Bauer was the better tool, although Harbor Freight was claiming that Hercules was the better tool. Then Earthquake came along. I can't remember whether Earthquake came before Bauer or Bauer came before Earthquake, but Earthquake came along, and that was their air tools. I've got one of those Earthquake half-inch pneumatic impact wrenches, and it does a good job. Then along came a second layer of Hercules tools. These tools, there is no doubt about it, they're competitive with the top-end commercial tools. And take the Harbor Freight 12-inch miter saw. I've got one. I've shown it to you. I've shown you my building a workstation for it.
Okay.
I will compare that to anything else on the market out there. The blade that comes on it is actually a pretty doggone good blade. I would put it somewhere around a Diablo blade. Pretty good blade. And the accuracy. Now, I've had this miter saw for several years, and it's still straight as an arrow. It's a good miter saw. And I recommend to the contractors out there to start considering Harbor Freight tools. They're the professional Hercules lines, like the automotive stuff, top notch. And also the Hercules and Bauer for the power tools. The reason why is with, let's say, something like a Makita or a DeWalt. You know, you can name the company out there, the tool manufacturer. They're all about the same quality. But the price on a Harbor Freight tool is less. Why? Because there's not as many hands out for a piece of the pie on a particular tool. So it's a little bit cheaper to get it at Harbor Freight. And the return policy, especially when you buy the extended warranty on it, whatever they call it, the extended warranty on it. If you have a problem with it, you take it back, set it on the counter for most tools. Now, if you get it into stuff like pumps and stuff where it might be dealing with sewage or safety factors like a generator, those are the exceptions to the rule. But if you want to do a typical hand tool that most contractors would buy, you just come in, if there's a problem, lay it on the table, and go and pick up another one. You might, depending on the store and whether the manager knows you, if they know you, they just swap it out. If they don't know you, they want to see the receipt. And you pick up another one. Whereas for DeWalt or any of the other ones, you have to ship it back to an authorized repair center. It sits forever. Then they decide whether you deserve the warranty or whatever they call it. And it could be 2 or 3 months before you get the tool back. Just not worth it for a contractor. Not having that tool is costing them money. So going to Harbor Freight, laying down the money to buy one of the power tools and the extended warranty is well worth it, because they can stop off on their lunch break and drop the tool off and get another one. Now, Hercules on their brushless tools have included a 5-year warranty included in the price. Why? Because they want to let the public know that Hercules tools are competitive to DeWalt and Milwaukee and Makita and Ryobi and all the other ones out there. They want to let you know they are now competitive with the rest of the tool companies out there. And with the return policy that they have, well, what can I say? You know, you can hand a kid your gopher, the receipt, throw the tool in the company truck and drive it over to Harbor Freight and swap it out. And then after lunch, you got a new tool. Now, sometimes it might be 1/10 of a second slower. In other words, bench tests, there might be a little bit of difference between one tool and another. Some of them, Harbor Freight will be better, and others, the other tools will be better. Not all of them, just some of them. And the differences are so small that you can only see the differences when you do testing. For example, the rotational speed on an impact driver might be 50 revolutions per second slower, or faster. It could be the other way too. So it really doesn't matter, those small differences, except when you're testing out the tools. So I know some of you have been very, very frustrated with Harbor Freight, and I have been too in the past. And I've come down hard when they needed to have someone come down hard on them. But I will also praise them when they deserve it. And I think that's all that Harbor Freight wants, is honest opinion on their products. So if it's time to replace a tool and you got a Harbor Freight store around, you might want to get either the Bauer or the Hercules. Now, if you're a contractor and you only use a tool every so often, it may be worthwhile to stay in the Bauer because you're not going to beat the tool to death. But I've never had any problems one way or the other of overheating. The only areas where I have had issues, real issues, with one exception, and that was the drill, was all messed up that I got. The chuck was throwing bits, and the regulator for the battery wasn't working right. So I swapped it out and got one, and it's been working fine ever since. So yeah, every once in a while you get the piece of bone in the hamburger. But it doesn't happen too often now. Is it worthwhile buying a tool that has a warranty on it that you can't use and you're paying for? That's a part of the price of the tool is the warranty in it. That's another reason why Harbor Freight tools cost less. 90 days will tell you whether the tool works or not. My philosophy is if it has a battery and bearings, then I get the warranty. If it's a screwdriver, I don't worry about it. But even the hand tools, most of them have lifetime warranties on it. So again, you break one, you take it back. And the old philosophy is 1 is none, 2 is 1, 3 is 2. So it might be that the backup becomes Harbor Freight. And then as you get used to it and you like the dependability of Harbor Freight tools as they have become, you might switch over to it. A lot of people are using Harbor Freight tools. They're using Harbor Freight generators with the Predator motors. Great. They're blowing Honda out of the water. And it's the same with a lot of the other tools. The shop vacs, whatever you want to call them. Shop vac is a brand name, but a wet vacuum. They're blowing everybody else out of the water too. And you see them in different shops. The frame jacks for automobiles. Jacks all over the place. Just keep your eyes open and see where Harbor Freight starts showing up. Tool chests. I've got a general tool chest in my garage. I've done a review on it. That was version 1. They're up to version 3 now. I'm very satisfied with that. Yukon, I'm very satisfied with that. I've got a Yukon, using it in the kitchen. Go and look at the video on that. It's still doing fine. And if you want to, you can go with the Icon tool chest. I never had one of those. The U.S. General's enough for me. So maybe it's time for you to come back to Harbor Freight. Thank you for watching, and please be safe.
We'd sure appreciate it if you could subscribe and leave a comment. You know how YouTube behaves. They won't believe you watched a video unless you leave a comment. Also, it would help if you ring the bell and do a thumbs up. As you know, if I find a good channel, I pass it on to you. So if you think it's appropriate, it would sure help if you passed us on to your closest 10,000 friends and family. But above all, give a helping hand to someone today. It's the best gift to give. It'll make you feel good too.
Don't forget to click like, subscribe, share, or ring the bell buttons on the Original Old Farmer channel. We enjoy reading the comments that you leave, and they do help the channel, so keep them coming. And once again, thank you for watching The Original Old Farmer.
The VFW National Home for Children, providing families of veterans and active duty military opportunities for growth and development in a nurturing community. Please consider a donation to help their children and families. I.C. Rhodes speaking.